I see, don't need water.
And it's Simone Darica Darling. There's your drinks.
Plastic.
Hindi na makuha.
Please mute your microphone.
Sugar syrup.
Oh yeah, you need the sugar syrup or else no good.
Ano tayo? Napay laing.
Last picture?
Kailangan ko. Ako mga
Oh.
Sophia Susan. Okay. So, okay. Let's start by answering some of the items in the exercises I sent. I hope you studied all the materials already. Just keep on checking the modules from time to time so that you are updated as to the materials that I am giving to the class. Some of you may not know that topics like optimization, perpendicular bisector, and others are part of the coverage for the first long test. Pakita ko nga. Okay, ito yung student view. So notice, for each module, there are several types of materials that are there. So when you see a paper clip like this one here, it means it's a file. It's a PDF file usually. It's something you have to read and of course study. And when you see an icon like this one here, like a chain, so it means a link that will send you to the video itself in YouTube. Okay, that explains the materials, or some of them are actually our synchronous sessions. And for module 2, notice that exercises with answer key have been uploaded. Okay, perpendicular bisector, this one's a link. So it explains how to find the perpendicular bisector of a line segment. Okay, and then for module 3, example here, you have a file on optimization, okay, which is actually supposed to be part of applications of piecewise functions, or the different kinds of functions. Okay, so I hope you browse those files and videos so you have an idea of what to expect in the first quiz on Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. So I'll be doing some items in the exercises I sent or I uploaded in module 2, or rather 3, module 3. Okay. So let me do one here. Okay. Okay, where this item asks you to evaluate a function at an expression. A given function is f of x equals 2 plus x over 2 minus x. Okay, and then for letter A, okay, so evaluate f of 2 plus x over 2 minus x. Now you may wonder why you have f of x equals 2 plus x and over 2 minus x, and then for letter A, you're evaluating f at 2 plus x over 2 minus x. They do not mean the same thing. So what you want to do here is to plug in or evaluate f using this formula, meaning you're going to plug in this expression, the encircled one, into each x in the given formula for f. So that means we will plug in into those x variables the whole expression here. So I'm going to plug in to each of those encircled x's. So we will have this one equal to 2 plus 2 plus x over 2 minus x for this one over 2 minus 2 plus x over 2 minus x for this one. So you plug into all the x values, or rather x variables, or sometimes we call placeholder, okay? Or placeholders there where you put in the input values. Although here the input value is an expression instead of a number. And then you will just have to simplify the expression. And to do so, you multiply by the LCD. Then you distribute. To do so, okay, we will have 2 minus x times 2. Then 2 minus x times this. 2 minus x cancels out. So you just have 2 plus x. Then same thing. You'll have 4 minus x. And for this one, and take note of the minus sign. Minus 2 plus x, or 2 minus x. Sorry, 2 plus x. Since 2 minus x cancels out, you'll be left with this. And it's a minus. If you don't put in the parentheses, you won't be able to distribute. You won't see that you have to distribute the minus sign over. So actually it should be minus 2 minus x. So continuing, we simplify further. So x cancels out here, 4 plus 2 is 6. And then this becomes minus 2 minus x. So you have 2 minus 2x. And then you can actually simplify this further, although technically this is already a correct answer. But in mathematics, we want the simplest form possible. So we divide everything by 2 for both numerator and denominator. So we have 3 over 1 minus 6. Is there any question on this? Okay, so let's do letter B. So for letter B, you are to evaluate f of 4 plus h minus f of 4 over h. So again, f of x is 2 plus x over 2 minus x. Given there in this one here. So you're going to evaluate f of 4 plus h. Let me rewrite it again. F of x is 2 plus x over 2 minus x. So let's evaluate first f of 4 plus h. So that will be 2 plugging in here plus 4 plus h over 2 plugging in here minus 4 plus h. And then you evaluate f of 4 minus. So plug in 4 in here. So 2 plus 4 over 2 minus 4. Then d over h. And then simplify. So 6 plus h, and then minus 4 minus h. So negative 2 minus h. Then this one is 6 over negative 2 with the negatives. It becomes a plus. Okay, plus 3. 6 over negative 2. Then over h. Then continuing, we multiply by the LCD again. Distribute. Okay, we do it. Distribute that to this one. Negative 2 minus h cancels out. And then this one here. So you'll have minus 6 minus 3h for this one. And then I will just leave the denominator for now as a product. The reason for that is a term will eventually cancel out. If not, then you would just have to distribute. Now let's simplify the numerator. Okay, negative 2h. Then h cancels out. Okay, and you can actually simplify this further by multiplying both numerator and denominator by negative 1. So 2 over 2 plus h. Okay, any question? Okay, so there are other practice exercises there which you can try. Numbers 1 and 3. Okay, and I'll proceed to the next set of exercises there, 5 to 15. For these exercises, okay, you are to show that the given equation is not a function. Not a function. By the way, what is a function? I hope you already studied that. The simplest way to define a function is that for one input, there is just one and only one output.
Really good things that happen.
Okay, there's a unique y value
The things you want
for
to
each
do.
x value. Please mute your microphone. Okay, so let's do number 6 there. Makita niyo kung ano yung mga step na kinukuha ko. Okay, so number 6. Okay, 2x equals 2y squared plus 1. How do we show or how do we prove that this equation is not a function but just a mere relation? All we have to do is exhibit an x value, just one x value, for which there corresponds two different y values. And actually, there are a lot of such x values. In fact, there are infinitely many. So all you have to do is give one. So you can just try a value for x. Any value will do. Okay, so some won't work, but most will. So if we try, say, x equals 4, and try to solve for the corresponding y or y values that will satisfy the equation, we will get actually 2 because of the presence of the square actually. So if we solve for y, there are two y values for which that is true, namely plus, minus, square root of 3/2. What does this mean? When x is 4, y can be either positive square root of 3 over 2 or negative square root of 3 over 2. So it's not a function, meaning the points 4, square root of 3/2, and 4, negative square root of 3/2 are part of the graph of this equation here. The x equals 2y squared plus 1. If you graph that, actually, it will fail to satisfy, remember, the vertical line test. It's actually a parabola that opens sidewards or sideways. So if you apply the vertical line test, it will fail, okay, the test. And so you can conclude that it's not a function, but here you are to exhibit two coordinates or an x value for which there corresponds more than one y value. Remember, for a function, it satisfies the following property that any two ordered pairs do not have the same x coordinate. And here we have two ordered pairs. They are different ordered pairs for which their x coordinates are the same. So that the point, okay, if we plot those points, they are part of the graph. One is at 4 square root of 3/2, and another at 4 negative square root of 3/2. Diba pag nag-point by point plotting ka, yan. So marami yan. So if you draw a particular vertical line, you see that it will intersect the graph in more than one point. So it does not satisfy the vertical line test. In fact, ito yung graph niya. Dalawa lang yan specific particular points sa graph. Okay? So let's try number 14. Isa pa siguro dito. What's the question so far? Okay, we only have 17 participants today. Okay, so number 14. The equation is absolute value of x minus 5 equals 6 plus absolute value of y plus 1. Can you try? Bigyan ko kayo ng mga 2 minutes. Maghanap kayo ng isang x value na may dalawang y values. Okay, you got one? Anyone? Or you got two? Ordered pairs? You tried, okay, 12 will work. Some will not. The 6 has to be transposed. So you cannot have a negative absolute value. So you won't have any y values there. Anyway, if you try x equals 12 or anything greater than that, it will work. They will work. Solve for y. So this is 7. But when you transpose 6, it won't become negative. So you will be able to get solutions for y. Now remember when we did equations involving absolute value, just have to consider all the cases or possibilities, plus minus 1. So y can be plus 1 minus 1 or minus 1 minus 1. Negative 2. Okay, so you're done. Or to put it in, say it or state it in a better way, you can say the points 12, 0, and 12, -2 are points on the graph. Or are two ordered pairs, different ordered pairs, which have the same x or first coordinates. Okay. So 12. Any question? Okay, gawin natin to, domain of a function. So you just have to consider those x values that will result in division by 0 or in a negative number under a square root sign. Remember, you cannot divide by 0 and you cannot have a negative number inside the square root, or a fourth, 6, okay, or any other radical with an even index. So you just have to exclude those values. Okay, so let's try. Okay, this one here. Okay, anyway. Okay, let's try that one. So the function is y equals x plus 1 over 2x squared minus x minus 3. So you just equate the denominator to 0. And either you factor this out or use the quadratic formula. Let's use the quadratic formula. So remember A, B, C. So A is 2, B is -1, C is -3. And then the quadratic formula, -b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Then you can just use your calculator. So this is 8 times 3, okay, 25. So it's exact. Perfect square. So 1 plus 5, 6 over 4. 1 minus 5, so -1. So those values will make the function here undefined. If you plug in those values, the denominator will become 0, and you know you cannot divide by 0. So how do you write down the domain? In set notation, set of all x such that x is not equal to 3/2 -1. Okay, or simply the set of all real numbers except 3/2 and -1. Okay, you have to use this delimiter to denote a set. Okay, or in interval notation, if you want to, so you have to exclude -1 and 3/2. So you write -infinity to -1, open union, -1, 3/2 open, union, 3/2 to infinity. But that is surely a long way of writing down your answer. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, number 30 here. Okay, here. So y equals square root of 1 minus x minus square root of x squared minus 4. Let's find the domain. Okay. Now, notice the roots, the square roots. You cannot have a negative number inside a root or a root with an even index. So you have to set those expressions greater than or equal to 0. So for this one to be defined, 1 minus x must be greater than or equal to 0. For this to be defined, x squared minus 4 must be greater than or equal to 0. So you have to solve those inequalities and take the intersection, since they must be both satisfied in order for the function itself to be defined. So you solve the first one. Then divide by -1. Reverse sense of inequality. X is less than or equal to 1. For this to be defined. And then this one now. You have to use the sign chart method, remember. If you construct the sign chart, just verify you get the following. And it has to be greater than or equal to 0. By the way, in the quiz, just use in for positive infinity. No need to put a plus, just use in, INF. And then for negative infinity, just put a minus sign. So let's combine the two. Okay, get the intersection. So you still have the same. Yun pa rin. Ito lang ang intersection pala. Okay, so the answer is negative infinity to -2. That's the domain. Is there any question? Somebody sent a message. All right. Let's move on. Okay. Gawin ko muna yung number 58. Okay, for number 58, you are going to find domain of the compositions. So for letter A, you are to find F circ G or F of G. Okay, sulat ko ulit yung. So F of X is given to be X over X minus 1. And then G of X, square root of X minus 2. First, you're going to find the F of G of X. So that means you're going to plug in G of X into F. So here's G of X, plug it into this one here. So you will get the following. Plug in here, plug in here. Okay, that's what you have. Okay, you call this function composition. Now you're asked actually not for the function itself, f of g, but rather its domain. So for it to be defined, first of all, of course, these expressions have to be defined. So we should have x minus 2 greater than equal to 0. Okay? Or x greater than equal to 2. But that's not enough. For the whole to be defined, you have a denominator. That means this one here should be non-zero. Correct? So that means we have to satisfy the inequality square root of x minus 2 quantity minus 1 not equal to 0. And how do you solve this? It's just solving an equation, except that you put a not equal to afterwards, or just manipulate that as though you are manipulating an equation. Okay, squaring both sides, or just one, add 2. Okay. So that means x must be greater than or equal to 2, but not equal to 3. If you look at that graphically, this one here says your domain or your x values should be in this set. And this one tells us you should exclude 3. Okay, so you write down, if you are required, as you will be, to write down your answer in interval notation, you just exclude 3. So 2, 3, open, okay, 3 open, infinity. That's your domain. Okay, any question on this? Okay, so gawin natin yung part B. G of f. Now, f of g is not the same as g of f. This time, g is the outer function, f is the inner function. So you are going to plug in f into g. So if you look at the given above, it's f that has to be plugged into g. That's g of f. Okay. Do not simplify when you are looking for the domain of a composition. It's explained in the videos, in one of the lectures there. And the reason is that the reason for that is that sometimes you will actually make it defined when it should not be really defined at particular values of x. Okay, hindi ako nakapagbigay ng ganong example dito, ano. Pero doon sa videos meron yata. But hindi kasi pwedeng i-simplify agad kasi nga ang punto doon baka mawala mo yung ibang x values na dapat i-exclude. Parang extraneous. But anyway, let me do it first for this one. So, halimbawa, sinimplify mo to. Sige, pakita natin ano yung meaning ka doon. Mag-LCD ka. And then magiging ganito siya. And then, ito na yung tututukan mo lang. Although hindi rin pala nawala. You might miss the fact that this should be non-zero. Kasi hindi ka pwedeng mag-divide by 0. Or although nag-appear kasi siya dito, no? So, it seems na parang magpapareho. So, siguro next time ako magpakita ng ganung example, mawawala mo siya eh. Okay, anyway, let me solve this one first. So, tama na pala yun. So, if we go back to that, okay, so, sinimplify ko na, but I have to take note that this should be not 0. Okay? Okay, para mas clear, pwede rin ganito. Pwede rin ito. Set mo muna yung inequality. Pwede rin yung simplify mo na, just noting that this should be non-zero. And then, ganun din ang lalabas. Okay, and then you have to use the sign chart method or the table of signs method to solve this one. Then, without showing you the details, yan yung sign chart. And then, obvious na na-exclude na yung 1 dahil ND. And then, greater than or equal to. So, negative 2, closed, open, at 1. Yan yung domain. Okay, so I think that should be enough for this session. Ayoko kasi talagang paabutin ng mahigit 1 hour yung discussion. So kung meron pa tayong 15 minutes na pwedeng ilaan sa mga questions. Anyone has a question on any item? For example, in the videos, any practice exercise problem na gusto nyong gawin natin dito? Anyone?
Sir,
Yes?
saan ulit pa nakuha yung negative 2?
Dito. Sorry. 2 minus x pala. I'm wrong. Okay. Thank you for that. 2 minus x pala to. So kung ulitin ko, 1, 2 pala, no? 1, 2. And the 0. So it should be 1, open, 2. Anything else? Okay, wala. So that's it. I'll be ending the session.